I think it's empowering to take personal responsibility. It wasn't my fault that my dad died. However, it is my responsibility to not use that as an excuse for why I can't have a magnificent life.
Alan Lazaros is here to share his journey
from external success
to internal fulfillment
through self-improvement.
So happiness is a formula. It's three things from my perspective. The first one is, so right now you and I are enjoying this conversation, I can tell. Being in the moment, enjoying what you're doing in the moment. Number two is cookies and donuts and that kind of stuff. Those are but not fulfilling. And that brings us to the third one. The third one is...
Welcome to It's Your Choice podcast. Today on the show, we have Alan Lazaros. Thank you very much for joining us today, Alan.
Well, first and foremost, I am so honored to be here, so grateful. Gratitude, because I do not take it lightly. I started listening to podcasts 10 years ago, and they really helped me sort of reorchestrate my life in a much more positive direction. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but whatever you're paying attention to, listening to, allowing into your consciousness is definitely affecting your future. So I will not waste a second of anyone's time. Thank you for having me. And it's your choice. I love the fact that the choices we make are making or breaking the life that we live in a very large amount. So I love it, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And I think, too, to help people, the reason why I picked that name was because everything we do is a choice, whether we feel like it is or not, or even sometimes not making a decision is still a choice. And we have to realize that. And of course, we don't, everything that happens in our life isn't directly because of what we've done. We have to deal with things that other people do, but then it's a choice of how we deal with those things.
Yeah, that level of personal responsibility is a very challenging thing for a lot of people. So it's very empowering that you chose that name, because I think, so I have one client of mine who I worked with who I'll keep anonymous, but essentially she was born with no arms and no legs. And she inspired the hell out of me because she never played the victim. She swims. She has her own business. I mean, she could have made any excuse in the world, and she just didn't. I mean, she has her own podcast. She's a podcaster, and you wouldn't even know, based on her level of self-efficacy, her level of self-belief, her dreams and goals. There's a lot of people in life that have every reason not to be successful, and they don't rest on it. And I had a really, really tough beginning. Father passed away when I was 2, and I think it's empowering to take personal responsibility. It wasn't my fault that my dad died. However, it is my responsibility to not use that as an excuse for why I can't have a magnificent life. And I think that that's the premise of your show and the premise of personal choices in general. So I'm here. I'm grateful, and yeah, we'll vibe, you and I.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why do you yourself think that self-improvement is important?
Yeah. So I grew up in an environment, as I already kind of mentioned, that was pretty challenging. Father passed away at 2, had a stepfather from age 3 to 14. My real last name is actually McCorkle. My birth father was John McCorkle. Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette, big Irish Catholic family.
Wow.
And I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and I had a stepfather named Steve Lazaros from age 3 to 14. And when he left, he took his entire extended family with him and 90% of the income. So we went from sort of boats and ski trips, .com bubble 90s to I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low. And I hope I get into college to, even if I do get in, I'm not going to be able to go. My dream college was WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. I actually spoke there yesterday. And
Wow.
Yeah, very grateful. Undergrad, it's a trip to go back and talk to 20-years. Now that I'm 36, even though I still look young, 16 years, those are fascinating tech years.
A lot of change, personally and externally.
Right? Especially with technology. I mean, these kids have never known not internet. I mean, it's crazy. So, but anyways, so to go back to what I was saying is, grew up rough. Went from, I hope I get into WPI to even if I do, I can't go because it's $50,000 a year. I got lots of scholarships and financial aid, straight A's through high school. When my stepdad left, I looked into the future and it was very scary. And this wasn't conscious at the time. This is only in hindsight.
Right.
I've been doing a lot of
Okay.
therapy in my 30s, sort of rewatching the movie of my own life. And this is, again, it's important for people to know I didn't know this at 14. But now in hindsight, it's very clear. I looked into the future and I kind of freaked out of, okay, no dad, no trust fund, no generational wealth. We're in some trouble here. And if it's going to be, it's up to me. And so unconsciously, I took personal responsibility to be the man of the house at a very young age. And my trauma response to all that, again, unconsciously, was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter. So I kind of became this sort of type A super achiever academic guy. And again, wouldn't have called myself that back then. But now in hindsight, it's very clear. And I got all
Mm.
the scholarships and financial aid. I got straight A's through high school. I went to college, all that kind of stuff. But self improvement, to answer your original question, there's that quote: "The when the student is ready, the teacher will appear." Well, I look back at my childhood, and I have a therapist named Carol. I do this, every other week, and I'm looking and I'm going, nope, no self improvement, no self improvement, nope, none, alarmingly none. Now, I don't want to offend anyone who's out there from my childhood. Listen, there was some good things, okay?
Hmm.
There was no self improvement. There was no personal growth, personal development, self improvement. None. Now,
Like as you mean that like as you were growing up, there was
yeah, there was
never
no,
that type of concept in your
not at
life at
all.
all.
Not at all. I mean, to an
I
alarmingly
can
no. Yeah.
I can relate. We
Yes.
we
Okay.
actually
You.
have
Yes.
a lot of
Okay.
things in common.
All right.
So,
Well,
but I'll let you continue. Yeah,
and that's why we do what we do today.
that's right.
And at the end of the day, I now realize that I believe that self improvement, if you improve yourself, you can improve your life. If you improve your life, you will be more fulfilled. If you are more fulfilled, you won't hurt others. And a lot of the pain and suffering in the world, I do believe, can be solved through self improvement. And so 10 years ago, I got in a car accident that got me to sort of question my existence, and I found self improvement. Fortunately, I was okay physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it really messed me up because it was my fault, number one. Number two, my dad died in a car at 28. So I was 26 at the time, very successful corporate, multi six figure. And I thought I had everything that I wanted, but I was externally successful and internally unfulfilled.
Hmm.
And then I found self improvement. I started a little company called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. I
Great
went
title.
broke. Yeah, thank you.
Uh,
Went broke. Good luck getting into schools and colleges with that. But ultimately, I eventually went to the point where I was happy, healthy, productive, fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness coach, but I went broke. So I was internally fulfilled, but I was externally unsuccessful in the
Right.
in the economy. In the economy.
Hmm.
And that's often the case because what happens, unfortunately, I know a lot of your listeners will relate to this. And I do this with my business clients now. I'm coaching 19 people currently. The thing that I find most fascinating is usually there's external economic success that is in tandem with lack of inner fulfillment. Not always, but a lot of the time. And the
Hmm.
reason why I've come to understand is that what the economy pays the most for is rarely what's meaningful work for us. Sometimes it is,
Yep.
but a lot of times it's not. Michael Jordan would be a good example that everyone will relate to, which is he loves basketball. And he also happens to be good at it, and the economy at the time paid a lot for it. I always say, how much would Michael Jordan get paid 100 years ago? The answer is $0 to play basketball. There was no NBA, there was no market for it. And so
Right.
I think that's one of the base problems. And so I went from externally successful and internally unfulfilled, found self improvement, found fulfillment, worked on myself first, and hoped success would be a byproduct. And eventually it was. Thank goodness.
Right. But it takes time and change is hard. And I think that is a little bit of a problem with the technology that we have is because we want all of this instant gratification and instant change. So yes, I want to change my life. It should happen very, very quickly. Or the new career, and I should start making the same amount of money of somebody who's been doing it for 20 years. It's like, unless you're really good, like you're that one in a million, that's just unrealistic. You're not, I'm not going to do, even in this industry with coaching and consulting and things like that. Like, I'm not going to be making the same and having the same, whether it's financially or impact on the number of people, as somebody that's like a Jay Shetty, Tony Robbins, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Like, the list goes on of all these people that have been like studying and doing for decades, that knowing it takes time. Pardon the interruption. If you're liking the show so far, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really means a lot to me. It helps grow the show and the channel and to the show. Maybe not as much time as it took them, because we have more information. We're doing things like when they just started out, things were very different.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could probably learn faster than they did, just because of all the stuff that they had to do that I can now learn from them.
Yeah, very well said. I think to add to that, it's really important because I came into this space again 10 years ago, started the podcast 8 years ago, and I found Tony Robbins' TED Talk after my car accident. That was my first really strong exposure to self improvement where it really landed for me. Very powerful TED Talk. Regardless of what you think of Tony, just the TED Talk is magnificent. And it's all about why you do what you do. But the point that I wanted to make here is I tell this to Kev because Kev is my business partner and we've been in this for 8 years. And I think that he was under the impression we'd be successful sooner. And again, we are very successful, but it's all relative. And 17-person team, 175 countries, just crossed our 2000th episode. I'm very grateful. But he asked me, like, are you proud of us? And I say, as men and what we do in the world, yes. But as far as how far we've gotten, absolutely not. Like, we're at 2% of our potential, in my opinion. But I'm also the weirdo math thinker. So, but with Kev, what I would say to him is, dude, we were actually early in finding Tony. Tony is 67 or 66 right now. I found him 10 years ago. So he was 56 when I first heard his TED Talk. So what people don't understand, we're 8 years into podcasting. I remember the beginning, the first year we had 1,056 listens. I'm a big numbers guy. I'm an engineer, so everything's metrics for me. So forgive me for that.
No, that's all right.
I appreciate it. I can tell. It's safe to be an engineer here. Okay, so not in a barbecue, though. So the first year, we had 1,056 listens. We get more than that in a day now.
Right.
So you got to have the right time perspective. So we have a recipe for failure. I'll give it to you quickly here. There's a recipe for failure and there's a recipe for success. And it's just 3 simple things. Again, it sounds probably overly complicated, but it's a triad, a triangle. The bottom left is the recipe for failure is having the wrong time perspective, the wrong approach, and the wrong expectations. So if you expect it to happen overnight, if you are thinking short term and you have the wrong approach, you're not doing the right things, you're going to fail.
Right.
We coach podcasters. We've been in this industry for 8 years. We've seen people come and go. We produce 58 podcasts, including 2 of my own. I mean, we can see the data. The people who win are the people who can stay the longest and improve along the way. So the recipe for success is the right expectations. It's going to take a long time. The right approach, stay consistent, improve along the way, make sure the packaging and the product and the business and the branding and the marketing and the sales and the client delivery, all that stuff. And then the last one is the right time perspective. I didn't expect to succeed in a year. I was playing the decade game, right? I always said my career wouldn't even start until my 50s, but I'm also the esoteric weirdo.
Well, I also think there is realistic expectations. Like, go with podcasts, for example, because you brought that up. How many podcasts are available in the world? Like, I don't know the numbers. It's a lot. And when we look at them, again, I don't know the statistic numbers, but they say when you look at them, a vast majority don't get past, I think, 20 episodes. And then even those ones, then by 50, a number of them quit. And by 100, huge portion again are gone. And it's not many out of all the ones that are out there and are started every day and everything else. that, those are kind of the points like 20, 50, 100. You just see drop offs because there could be a lot of reasons. They're not making money. It's taken too much time. They're not fulfilled by it. They thought that it would be more successful and they would be having more things and views going on, and it's not. So they stopped doing it, and a variety of reasons. But I think a good portion of that is that expectation of, I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to have 1,000 subscribers and 1,000 listeners within 1 month. And maybe, but that's not the vast majority.
Well, we produce shows and we have one, and I do actually have those stats, so I can share them for you only because this is the space we're in, obviously. But
Mhm.
we had a client who is a relationship therapist, relationship and family therapist, licensed, and she did that for 13 years. She also did Instagram for 13 years, and I'll keep this anonymous. And we produced her show. She had a top 5 show first week. Now, we could easily say we produce top 5 shows. We cannot say that because it was her, not us, right? Now, our production
Right.
company's great, but we're not going to, that's not the norm. That's the
Mm,
anomaly. And by the way, the only reason why she's so successful is the 13 years she crushed it in her practice and Instagram. And by the way, Instagram back
right.
then was way more lucrative than it is now. So, yeah, we launched the show and she was top 15 relationship show within the first week. But that had nothing to do with what we did. And so a less integrous company, I'm proud of us for this, would have said we produce top 10 shows and all this stuff. So a lot of those are vanity metrics and they're not real. And if they are real, it's because of the work that was done a decade prior. And to
Right.
give you some of the podcast statistics that I am fascinated by, obviously I love metrics. So pre-COVID, there was 2 million shows. And I
Okay.
researched this recently. I think it's 2 months ago.
Mm.
So 2 million shows pre-COVID. COVID, 5 million.
Because, well,
Wild.
everybody's at home. Let's start a podcast.
Right. Now, of the 5 million, only 387,000 of them are still actually in consistent production.
Wow.
Of the 387,000, this will be hopeful for you, only 9% of them get past 100 episodes. That's why
Really?
staying power is the most important. I always say Coca-Cola and Sam's Cola. Everyone's going to buy a Coca-Cola because no one knows who Sam is. It's Sam Walton from Walmart. Doesn't matter. Sales and business is about certainty. You want a computer, go on Apple. It is what it is.
Right. Oh, I don't know if you can hear me, Alan, but you're frozen right now. I will give it a minute and see if we unfreeze. I don't know why this is happening. Let me see if I can put in the chat. I don't know if you can hear me. Um, oh, what time is it? 4:37.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Hey, I'm sorry. I think that was my
That's all right.
internet.
That's okay. It happens
That's
sometimes. I just make a little note and I can edit it, so that's no
strong
problem.
work. Where did I
No.
where did I cut out for you?
You said if you want a computer, you go get an Apple. So you said like the
Nice.
Sam's Coke, nobody buys that. You
Yep.
go buy Coca-Cola. If you want
Okay.
a computer, you buy an Apple,
Yeah. I'll
and
just
then you
start at the
froze.
awesome. Okay. I'll start at the top of that
All
thought.
right.
So to me, business is about certainty, and you learn this through just recognizing patterns over the years of, I started off as a fitness coach and a mindset coach, and I was a peak performance coach, and then it was a life coach for a little while, then it was a business consultant, and now it's a business coach for the last few years. And what you realize is that staying power, the ability to stay consistent in one direction long term, is how you build a brand and a reputation. And in the beginning of the podcast game, nobody knows you yet. So they don't have certainty that you're going to be around in the future. They don't have certainty that you're going to be around tomorrow. They don't have certainty of who you are and what you stand for yet. So unfortunately, you kind of, in the marketplace, in real life, in order to be fulfilled, you have to be eclectic and holistic. In the economy, you have to focus, focus, focus. And it's really hard to balance
Mm,
those two. And that goes back to fulfillment and success, like we talked about earlier.
right. And what how would you define the difference between fulfillment and happiness? Pardon the interruption. If you're enjoying this episode and you're someone who values performance, clarity, and personal growth, then you're going to love my Mind Matters weekly newsletter. Every week, I send out a quick, powerful piece designed to help high achievers like you master your mindset, upgrade your habits, and lead with more clarity and fulfillment. It's not fluff, it's science backed, actionable, and easy to digest. It as your weekly reset button to realign with the leader you're becoming. So if you want to go deeper than what we've covered here on the show, then head over to www.sallypederson.com. That's me, and subscribe. Your next breakthrough just might be one email away. Now back to the show.
So I think that happiness is something that all of us have sort of a different definition of. And I think labels are hard because all of us, right, you can say dog to one person, and one person who loves dogs is going to have a good feeling, and one person who got hurt by a dog may be a bad one. So happiness, I think, is just an inaccurate label, and I'll explain why. There's that quote that's famous. I don't even know if it's true, to be honest, but John Lennon, he said that when he was a kid, he was given an assignment where he was supposed to write down what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he wrote down happy. I guess. I don't know if it's true. And the teacher said, you don't understand the assignment, and he said, you don't understand life. Now, I agree that, if you ask a mother or a father what they want for their children, I want them to be happy. I think that's a consensus. I get that. Pursuit of happiness, all this stuff. As I got older and older and older, I realized that we're aiming at the wrong thing because it's fleeting. It's like butterflies. You chase them and you don't understand. So if I were to ask all the listeners or viewers, are you happy? Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. It's okay. Well, how happy? 0 to 10. Okay, 7. All right. Well, yesterday, today, tomorrow, what's the deal? So I'm an engineer, a formula guy, and I realized that we're aiming at the wrong thing. So happiness is a formula. It's 3 things from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is joy. So right now, you and I are enjoying this conversation. I can tell. Great. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, that's good. That's number 1, joy. Being in the moment, enjoying what you're doing in the moment. Okay. Number 2 is pleasure. Pleasure is cookies and donuts and that kind of stuff. Pleasure, I think, is the trap. I am convinced of this. Whether it's pornography or cookies and donuts or whatever, insert vice here, alcohol, drugs, you name it, those are pleasurable but not fulfilling. And that brings us to the third one. The third one is fulfillment. And I think fulfillment only comes when you are growing and contributing in alignment with your unique calling. Now, that all sounds really esoteric and heavy, but ultimately, having coached so many people, you come to realize is some people have a business that is not aligned with their essence, and they're unfulfilled but successful. Other people...
Oh, yeah, we know a lot of that, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and then there's other people that are super passionate about what they do, and they're in their purpose, and they're in their calling, and they're super fulfilled, but they don't make any money.
Right.
So I try to help those people make more money. The other people who are already making good money but are unfulfilled, we have to pivot. We have to shift. We have to help them be fulfilled from the inside out. And I was successful externally pre-26, pre-car accident. And then afterwards, I had to sort of reinvent myself and uncover my essence and then turn my passion into purpose, into profit. And I think that the way in which I did that is I focused on inner fulfillment first and hoped success externally would be a byproduct. And eventually it was, keyword eventually, because it was nothing short of atrocious in the beginning, economically. But I think that that's really what we get wrong is we shoot for goals outside of ourselves that are not in alignment with our essence, with our passion, our purpose, and then we achieve them unfulfilled. Or we focus on inner fulfillment, but we don't understand the economy, so we end up unsuccessful in the economy, even though we're fulfilled in our real life. And I think that bridging those two can be very difficult.
I agree. And I think, unfortunately, with one of the things with marketing, I mean, marketers are fantastic at their job, but at the same point, I don't like the tactics that are used to market. And a lot of it we see everywhere, buy this, it'll make you the envy of the neighborhood. It'll make you feel happy. It'll make you be like what all these tactics that they use. And I mean, and it's interesting because it still works, although we generally know, and some of us really know, and some of us just kind of sort of know, but the majority of people are knowing that stuff doesn't buy us happiness. It doesn't create joy. And well, it may create momentarily joy, but it doesn't cause fulfillment. We get a new car, we're joyful, and we're like, I'm never going to eat in the car. I'm going to keep it clean. I'm going to do all these things because it's our brand new car. And maybe a month later, "Oh,
It's your
I'm in
new
a hurry.
normal.
I'll grab something to eat. I'm eating in the car. I didn't wash it. Oh, I'm late for the oil change." Like all of those things. And that's just an example. And same thing for like I don't watch TV. I'm not a TV person, but I have
Good
friends
for
who
you.
do, and they have like a big screen TV, and I'm like, great, that brings you some joy, and you have it. But where the problem is where the new bigger screen TV comes out, and then they have to get it because it's bigger.
Hmm.
And I've said, like, what's wrong with the one you have? Is it broken? Oh, no, no, it's fine. Just this one's bigger.
Yep.
And those things that we know scientifically that stuff will bring us a little bit of happiness. It will bring us some momentary joy, but it doesn't bring fulfillment. And I am saying for the most people, because there are people that materialistic things
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do really make them happy and stuff, but it's a very small amount of people that are truly fulfilled with just having some stuff. And I
Agreed.
I, I say very few. I personally believe it's zero, but I'll say there's a few.
Fair, fair, fair. I've come to understand that everyone ties their self-esteem to different things, and I one of the exercises that I do with my clients is figure out the top 3 things they tie their self-esteem to. So we can go into that.
Mm.
One of the other things that came up for me when you were talking that I wanted to share. Oh, the social world and the real world. The best way I can describe this, I have an asset that I teach on, but essentially the real world is over here, the social world is over here. We all live in both.
Mm.
The social world is about, I have to close my eyes to do this. Okay, so the social world, they're both triangles. Okay, the real world, you need resources, skills, and awareness to achieve your goals. Okay, and that requires self belief and authentic self worth. The
Okay.
social world is the one that is the economy, unfortunately, and I'll explain why.
Mm.
The social world is 3 things. The triad, I have to close my eyes to think of this. Okay, bottom left of the triad is external results. External results, number 1. Number 2 is Berging relationships. I'll explain what that means. It's a cognitive bias. And then the third one is what? Status or perception or something like that. Status and perception. The point that I'm
Okay.
making here that I really think helps this land is that everyone's wedding looks great, not everyone's marriage is.
Ah, that's a good way to describe it.
Thank you, thank you. So
Mm.
we coach Emilia and I, future wife, girlfriend, living together for 4 years, together for 5, and I say future wife because we're not married yet. But we've been coaching couples for 4 years now. We have a podcast called the Conscious Couples Podcast.
Okay.
And I was the external world. I understood the economy, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. She understood the inner world. She's been doing therapy since she was 12. She loves all IFS, CBT, all these things. She taught me the inner world. I taught her the outer world. It's really cool. And so now,
Nice.
we're doing this. We just actually got off an event, a relationship talks event right before this. That's why I had to move us 15 minutes. And so I've been coaching couples for 4 years, and you just notice patterns. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you notice is that some people care about the marriage first, wedding second. Those are successful couples.
Right.
Other people are social status first, wedding first, marriage second. That's a dangerous game. In high school, we care so much about who's popular and am I a jock or a nerd or am I good looking or not or did I hit puberty, which I definitely didn't, still haven't. I'm kidding. But in the social world, that's the economy, and that's why you mentioned marketers.
Mm.
But in the real world, none of that shit matters.
Right.
I drive a Tesla. I'm in a beautiful condo. Awesome. My life's great. I have a great lifestyle. I started from nothing. But what really matters in the real world is my health, my beautiful relationship, how fulfilled I am, and my own calling and my own career, my own mountain that I'm climbing, my own potential. Okay. Now, in the social world, that doesn't matter at all, unfortunately. As a matter of fact, when I became a better man and got into self-improvement, I lost friends, not gained them. I honestly thought, and this is how naive I was, it's comically bad now to realize this. 10 years ago, when I found self-improvement, I quit drinking, I started fitness. I mean, I went all in. I dialed self-improvement up to 11. I authentically, sincerely thought when I became a better man, I would have more friends and people would like me more. That was alarmingly not true. Holy crap, it was the opposite. And what I've come to understand is that you get two choices. You can align with your highest self in the real world, or you can play the game of the status and that world. We all have to play both, right? I need to have the awards in the background. I need to be credible since I look 15. I get it, okay? I have to be a successful business coach. However, I better be fulfilled in the real world first, successful in the external world second. The social status world, you got to be very careful of. And that can rip you a new one. It really can. And I've seen too many mentors, millionaires, one billionaire actually, and they're just wildly unfulfilled. And it's like, okay, well, that's why. You take better care of your Porsche than you do your own family. And I can't have it. Can't have it. So he's not a mentor anymore. But that, when you see it and you witness it, you go, okay, I got to change the game. I got to change the game, and I got to care about my heart, my mind, my body, and my soul, and my relationship and my real life first, and then let that ripple outward into the social world and not the other way around, because otherwise you're filtering photos and this whole thing. I was a fitness model. I get it, right? But it needs to be real world first, social world second, in that order, because if it's not, you're still playing that sort of high school game, and it's never going to fulfill you.
Right. And I mean, we see it happen lots. We have what we perceive, and we always have so many perspectives. And the easy ones are when we look at famous people, rich famous people, whether they're movie stars, professional athletes, and things like that. We think, wow, they have it all. They've got lots of money, they've got fame, they've got the big house, the cars, the whatever else. But then behind closed doors, which we sometimes find out later, but not for a while, how many of them have drug problems, alcohol problems, depression. They're on all kinds of medications because that outer materialistic world isn't fulfilling at all. Then we know that there's the opposite. There's people that are making 100 grand a year or less, especially some countries. Some countries, when we look at some of the poorer countries, they're some of the happiest people because it is family, relationships, friends. Yeah, they go to work, but they don't need to have big $1 million house. And it reminds me of a story that I heard, and I don't really think it's a true story, and it's been turned and twisted a few times. There's probably a few different versions of it, but the guy was on holidays and he went out on a fishing trip and caught a bunch of fish. And then the guy's like, okay, well, we're good. We have enough. Was the owner of the boat. And the guy's like, well, why don't we stay for more? He said, well, we don't need any more. We have enough fish, and I have enough for me. I give some away, I sell a bit, and it's all I need for today. We'll come back out tomorrow. And the guy's like, well, if you fished more every day, you could sell more, you could build up this business. And he went into this whole thing of building business, producing, spending 10, 15 years, 20 years doing it. And then you can retire and you can just sit back and enjoy life. And he's like, but why go through that to already do what I'm doing? So it's like, why spend 20 years to go through all the stress of building up a company and doing all this business stuff when I can keep it small, I can keep it manageable. I still see my kids' school things. I go out fishing for half a day. Some days it's a full day because obviously it's different every day. But it's true. It's like, what do we really need? And why are we building up to get all of this stuff if we just downsize it all later?
Well, so if you are in a position where a career, so some people, you've heard this probably, some people have a job, some people have a career, some people have a calling.
Yes.
I talked to the kids yesterday about this at my alma mater, WPI, and it was a group of undergrads, engineers, 50 of them. I think it was 50. I'm kind of guessing based on my visuals.
Mm-hmm.
And this was their first exposure to business. So I knew I had to kind of take it easy on them a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in the best way. And one of the kids had said what you just said, which is not the same thing. He didn't say it nearly as eloquently, and he didn't tell a story. He just said, "What's the point of working 20 years to get $50 million when you didn't live?" And I said, "Well, the fundamental misunderstanding about that is that you're assuming it just suddenly goes to 50 million, when in reality it starts with 1, then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. And now here's the key: if the building of that business is in alignment with your growth and greatest level of contribution, and you are fulfilled on a day-to-day basis, there is no downside. It's just a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win for the
Right.
employees. It's a win, hopefully, for the earth and not at the expense of the environment. It's a win. So when NLU wins, Next Level U, my company, I don't want, like, seriously, genuinely, I how do I say this without coming off pretentious? I haven't taken a full day off in 10 years. Normally, when I tell people that, they say, "Oh my God, that's so bad for you." And I said this to this woman, Karen, once. I said, "Karen, no, that's bad for you. I don't want to take a day off. I adore building my company, and I adore this mission I'm on of helping people learn self-improvement, health, wealth, life, and love. However, sometimes it's an hour a day. Sometimes it's 16 hours a day. Now, the 16-hour days, if they leak into each other, yeah, I'm unfulfilled and I need to dial it in. But my point is that I know some people who really are fulfilled so deeply by the most meaningful work. And that's why I'm here at 7 o'clock at night on this show right now, because this is a calling. It's not just a job.
Right.
And so the fisherman story, it's the fisherman is already fulfilled. That's all good. They don't mind not reaching their potential. The business owner wants to reach their potential, but is not aligned probably. And there's a balance between those two. What if you can feed more than just yourself and your family? What if you can feed the country? And to me, business can be turning your passion of fishing into a purpose of feeding people who need it for a profit, and then you reinvest those profits into more fishing and that kind of thing. So I'm all for business and capitalism. I am. However, when you do it wrong at the expense of the environment or at the expense of people. So I had a guy come to me and he wanted me to help him grow his wine company. And again, for anyone who drinks wine, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I had a drinking problem in the past. I came up from a past with a lot of alcoholism. I personally quit drinking 5 years ago. I wasn't about to help him grow his wine company because I think the last thing this planet needs is more alcohol. That's my truth. That's my purpose. That's my calling. Now, here's
And
the
that's
deal.
okay. That's good. And it's being awareness and choosing and that's fine. I mean, we need people who believe and feel the way that you do. So not everybody turns into alcoholics. And I mean, I am a wine drinker. I like it, but if somebody doesn't, great. And it's all good.
100%. And so that's the idea here is I don't, so a cigarette company, for example, it
Hmm.
it is not a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. It's
Right.
a win for the company at the expense of your health. And I'm not for that. So I am for business. What I'm not for is unethical business. And again, that's a whole nother discussion about whether or not cigarettes and choice. This is
Well,
about choice and all that stuff. Yeah,
even just your values, right? It's like I don't
100%.
want to work with somebody who doesn't share the same values as me. Now, we don't have to have all of them, but if it's something that's really against a value that I have, I I would not work for the company as an employee. I would not bring them on as a client. Like that, that's a choice that we all can make of do I agree with the values of this company? And therefore, do I or do I not want to work with them?
Yeah, because if you be the change you wish to see in the world. So if I help that company grow, even though it's against my value, I am now helping something expand in the world that I actually think is detrimental for the world. And so we all have to tap into our own belief systems and our own essence and our own purpose and our own calling. And when you do that, it becomes very clear what to say yes to and what to say no to. And again, I'm only 36, so I'm still young, but I'll tell you what, I was messing that up so bad in my 20s. It's not even funny. I mean, I am alarmed at how bad I was at discerning these are my people and these are definitely not my people. And I now in my 30s have a lot of clarity on that through massive pain and failure.
Well, and I was going to say that that all comes from experience because for one, I mean, we're born a clean slate. Babies, we know nothing. We
Mm-hmm.
only learn from the environment that we're in, from our parents, from our experiences, from our city, towns, schools, friends. things like that. And so it takes, I think, a long time and some much longer than others to realize those things have been impressed upon us. A lot of those things, if we actually sat back and thought about, do I really believe that? Do I really think that? I'm not saying that our parents or people did things wrong. They did the best that they could with the knowledge and tools and things that they had. We're able to now look at things differently, but also because we have different tools, we have more knowledge about mindset, how the brain works, the body. And in 20 years from now, we're going to even look back to this day and go, we actually thought that. We know so much more,
100%.
or we were completely wrong thinking that brain worked that way or the body or, whatever it may be, because things are always changing. And so, best thing though is I always think is to question ourselves. Why do I think or believe this? What do I truly believe? What do I personally want? What makes me happy? What brings me happiness, joy, fulfillment, and then focusing on those types of things and knowing sometimes we have to experience things to realize that that's not what we want. And just a simple example is many years ago, I was considering like, what am I going to do for work and change jobs? And I thought coding, computer coding. There's so much computer coding jobs that are always out there. And I thought, I'm going to take a coding course. And I just went on to Coursera.org, and I still love Coursera because they have so many programs and courses and stuff. And it was a free course. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it. We're going to see.
Nice.
I realized very quickly I will never be a coder. Like, I am so glad we have coders. Like, we absolutely need them. They make so many, and I am so grateful. I can do some things with my own website, some basic stuff that I'm aware of, but it does not
Yeah.
resonate with me. It is not part of me. It is not my thing. And so then I at least knew, like, let that thought go of anything to do with coding and that type of thing. Don't even think about as a job because it's just not me.
And the truth of the matter is, if you, and I'm a computer engineer because I had similar experiences too, if you keep telling yourself a story that you can be a coder, you can be a coder, you can be a coder, the chances of you being as good as my roommate in college who was born to be a coder, it's not going to happen. So you're supposed to
No.
be Sally. You're not supposed to be Jeff or Jane. I'm supposed to be Alan. And that's why at Next Level University, we talk about next level you, pun intended. I'm
Mm.
Alan version 3.6, which is very different than Alan version 2.6. It's an upgraded version. And
Right.
we can all improve ourselves. And you had mentioned earlier our parents did our best. One thing that I found very true and very scary is that they didn't necessarily better their best. Some people do. Everybody does their best with the resources and skills and awareness that they have at the time. And you're absolutely right. They didn't have Google. They didn't have all this. Google's only 28 years old. Like, I get it. But they weren't necessarily bettering their best. And that's one thing that I think we all need to, as adults, take responsibility for. Like, it is your responsibility to better your best.
Mhm.
Because what happens is we close our minds. We're not humble. We aren't willing to look inward and go, you know what? Maybe I am being kind of a crappy parent. And maybe I could be better. And maybe I should pick up a parenting book. And there's a lot of people from my childhood that didn't do that self reflection. And they didn't have high self awareness and they didn't have the humility to read and to work on themselves. Because I think the information is out there, but you have to be humble and curious enough to actually seek where you're inadequate in order to work on it. The only reason why I'm even
Absolutely.
remotely successful today is because I spent the last 10 years looking at all of my inadequacies and then working on them. However, here's the problem, and this is a conundrum. If someone doesn't have high self belief internally, they're going to avoid feedback
Right.
because feedback is just pain if you don't believe that you can
Mhm.
transform. And so, for people with high self efficacy, high self belief internally, even though it's unconscious, we are achievers and we turn our adversity into our advantage. But most people, adversity is just adversity, and that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is. And unfortunately, we don't have time for that whole other conversation, but maybe you can come back and we can expand and have definitely another conversation on that. But before we leave and wrap up, Alan, where can people find you? What's the best way to be in touch?
Sally, first of all, thank you for having this conversation with me. I liked our little sort of dance together in this. We both have some stuff that I know we triggered in each other to contemplate. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And I do appreciate the work you're doing in the world, seriously, because if you're getting people to contemplate themselves, contemplate the world, contemplate how it works, why it works that way, that's how the world improves right there. Love it.
Great. Thank
Where
you.
you can find me, anyone viewing or listening, Instagram is probably the best place. Lazaros88, Alazaros88. At my speech yesterday, I literally just had a slide up, say, hey, my name's so and so. I saw you speak at WPI, and I got a bunch of DMs. So I think Instagram is a simple, sort of low barrier to entry to connect. I appreciate it. Also, my Instagram will show you a little bit about who I am, in as authentic as you can be on social media. And we have a podcast called Next Level University. There's my timer. Next Level University is on all the podcast platforms. Next Level U, pun intended. And we have a website called nextleveluniverse.com. We've got a book club. We've got events. We got all kinds of stuff. So if you're into self-improvement, the last piece I'll say is I figured out my people and my not people. So I'm just going to share this, and I don't mean this against anyone, but if you are humble and sincere and you have a genuine desire to earn your way to success and fulfillment, I always say, please reach out. You're going to love my business partner, Kevin. You're going to love me. You're going to love Next Level University. If on any level you are entitled and want huge rewards for minimal effort, you're not going to like me at all. You're not our fit. It's okay. Just please don't reach out under any circumstance. And it's just going to be a waste of your time and mine. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to make things easy for everybody, I'll make sure that the links to everything are in the show notes below. So again, thank you very much for your time today, Alan.
Thank you, Sally. I appreciate you.